What's up, everybody? Dead Girl here. Happy Wednesday. First and foremost, huge shout out to Midnight Syndicate for allowing us to use their song Born of the Night off of their Born of the Night album. Copyright Midnight Syndicate. All rights are reserved. We do have permission to use their music, so YouTube, stop it. Anyway, also wanted to give a big shout out to a friend of ours who watches the show. His name is Jake. You're amazing. I can't wait to chat with you soon. But we've got some guests on this evening. We've got some of the folks from Phantasmagoria. So let's bring them in here and get chatting. Hello!
Hey, darlings!
Wait,
I'm not sure.
is she here? Wait,
She's been here.
Oh, she is
I
here!
think I'm sitting-
Hello, darling! Oh, yes, absolutely.
Hello, and welcome. And so we have Byron, and I'm gonna mispronounce your name, so help me out. Lady Cimarine?
You got it, yes!
Yay!
You pronounced it properly the first time. Thank you.
Ah, miracles happen. Now we've got tons of viewers that hop on and check us out, and they may not be familiar with you guys. Now you're part of an amazing troupe called Phantasmagoria. So for those of you that aren't familiar with you or your acts, can you tell us a little bit about you guys?
Well, of course, we're a Beatles cover band. No, that's something else. That's John Babcock. We are a Victorian horror troupe, also known as a Victorian horror circus, depending on the type of performance we're doing. We are a theatrical troupe, first and foremost, so we perform main stage shows and touring shows. And we also do events where we'll do anything from telling tales of terror to belly dancing to sword swallowing to danger arts. So we kind of mix the theatrical, the horror, and the circus arts all together.
Now, what is a danger art?
Ooh, danger arts. Well, danger arts is someone named Callum. So Callum enjoys knives and whips and axes and bows and arrows and lots of dangerous things that no one should ever in a million years play with, but he does. And if you ask him how he learned about all these things, he started learning about them through YouTube. So he does knife throwing acts and axe throwing, and he'll do amazing whip performances, including, snapping them out of various body parts, roses sticking out. So that's what we call the danger arts. The sword swallowing is also definitely danger arts.
Yes.
So the thing that people don't understand sometimes is that there are no tricks. These are skills that people learned, and I think I keep freezing. Am I frozen? There I am. I'm back again.
You're moving.
Good. So these are things that could really actually hurt someone, but through their skill and their focus, they're able to keep it very safe.
I've got some friends that do some. They refer to them more as like sideshow acts and things like that. So I have some friends that do those things, and it always amazes me the things that people can do with the human body that doesn't, it could harm them, yes, but it doesn't hurt them. And like if I tried swallowing a sword, no, I'm done. Or like the nail up the nose, no, that's no. I'll leave that to someone that is trained and that has done that for moons. So I appreciate the danger arts, and it's awesome that you guys have that to add to your arsenal in your troupe.
Yeah, well, it's very rare, and we didn't actually know that till we began doing it. It was just a couple of weeks ago. I learned that in 2016, I think it was, there were only 110 sword swallowers around the world who were registered actual sword swallowers. And now it says that there's only about a few dozen still performing. Now, that's, of course, like official. I'm sure there's lots of people who do it unofficially and that kind of a thing.
Right.
But our sword swallower, Vera, she's in Ripley's Believe It or Not because she's been doing it so long.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah. So it's you don't realize how rare it is till you discover how few there are.
And it is one of the few things I have been forbidden to learn, although I desperately want to.
That's like my husband. He's like, is that a hot glue gun? No touchy. So
I'm allowed to play with fire, but I'm not allowed to swallow a sword.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's okay. Yes.
I mean, I guess I understand, because you can always put the fire out, right? If you pierce an organ, that's a little more difficult to fix.
Well, see, this is why I learned from the best.
It's a
One
good.
day.
Let's talk about insurance. So,
I've got that.
yes, fire performers can be insured.
Yes.
Whip artists can be insured. Aerialists can be insured. Sword swallowers cannot. We have tried. We have called agencies around the country, around the globe. None of them will insure a sword swallower because it's internal. It's inside the body.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy. If anybody out there in your viewing audience knows of an insurer for sword swallowers, please call us and make sure it's not some gentleman who stands on a corner selling them out of his jacket.
They want a legit company, people. So if you want to hit me up or hit Phantasmagoria up, we'll connect them and we'll make that happen. Now, oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, then I can learn because I'll be insured.
Yeah, sure you can learn, absolutely. Now, can you tell us how did you guys form Phantasmagoria? How did the troupe come to be?
Well, it was a journey, quite honestly. For decades, about 20 years, or well, 30 years, I had this idea for a horror circus, but I had no idea what that meant. It's, I would have this idea and we'd drop it, and Ben Rock, who was a dear friend of mine, who's one of the Blair Witch people, we talked about, like, what could this be, but it never happened. Okay. Eventually, I did a few kind of sideshow acts with a fashion show company I was working with years ago called Anti-Babe, and that's about as far as it got. And then about 13 years ago, I was up in Atlanta, because I was teaching every summer up in Atlanta, and I saw this show. It was a fusion show of puppetry and music and projections and live action, and it was a very serious piece. It was a Faulkner novel they were bringing to life.
Oh, wow.
And I sat there and I went, okay, I've been thinking too literal. What could explode all of these ideas? And I went back to the dorms I was living in to teach in Atlanta, and I wrote the first Phantasmagoria. I called all my collaborators back home and I said, I have an idea. We're going to do it this October. So we pieced it all together. We had a choreographer who was working with us. Simarine came aboard in that very first year. I didn't know her. We never met until then. We didn't have auditions. We just kind of all brought on people we trusted. And the dancers worked separately, and I worked with the actors and the puppeteers and everything, and kind of put it together in the final week. And that became Phantasmagoria. And we did that first show thinking, well, I shouldn't say that first show. We did a show thinking that this was it. It was a show called Phantasmagoria that we were doing one year. And by about the third week, we were performing this at the Orlando Shakespeare.
Oh, okay.
About the third week, people were saying, oh, this is wonderful. What are you going to do next year? And we went,
it's a surprise.
yeah, I didn't know. So we all, on the closing night, we all held hands, about 24 people. 24 people, cast and crew, and I said, do we want to do this again next year? And they all said, yes. And I said, well, I don't want to do the same show. I'll write another one. And they all went, great. And we did the second year. And then, by then, we kind of knew we were going to keep going, that this was interesting. By about the third year, we started being invited to do events. We had no idea what that meant. So we were invited to do a comic book convention. And we're like, what are we supposed to do?
Right?
We're not comic books. So we showed up, and we were just kind of entertaining. We had stilt walkers outside and some dancers and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden, people were coming up to us going, you're Byron, you're Isabella, and we're like, this is strange.
Who are you people?
Yes, and they knew who we were because they had seen the shows. Oh. And then I think the way things got solidified for us on the event side was Renegades. So Renegades is this wonderful antique kind of development and flea market up in Mount Dora. Yes. And they sought us out and they hired us to host their steampunk industrial days.
Oh, nice.
And we went and did that the first time, and we came home exhausted, and we're like, oh, I wonder if anyone saw us. And we went on, social media and we're like, what the
Everyone
hell?
saw us.
There were videos of us everywhere. And did you find the thing in Ireland or did I?
Which one?
Well, exactly. We were in like some platform in Ireland, people talking about us.
Oh,
And we're going,
wow.
what is going on? So it kind of spiraled to kind of bring the question to a close. It kind of just spiraled. It became what it was. About the seventh year, a dear friend of mine, Marty Stonerock, said to me, "You had no idea, did you?" And I'm like, "No." It just happened. And so it's just snowballed and kind of expanded from there.
See, I love when things kind of happen by happy accident. Where you're like, I'm gonna create this thing and we're gonna do this show, or some folks may be like, well, I'm gonna create this painting or this makeup, and then the next thing you know, it just spirals into this monster, and it's the best kind of monster because it's something that folks enjoy and that you can share your talents with people and they can come visit, and you make them smile, you know what I mean? So it's such a wonderful thing that you're able to do that, and I love the fact that you only went in going, just gonna do a show, just one, and then 13 years later you're like, well, there went that. Now, what does the name Phantasmagoria mean? How did that come about?
It has multiple meanings, and it came from multiple sources, and it's very funny because a lot of people in pop culture only know it from the video game, because there was, I guess, a video game a number of years ago called Phantasmagoria. And they're like, oh, did you name yourself after the video game? And we're like, no. It goes back to the 1700s, the word, actually. It means ghost show. And the Phantasmagorias. So literally, when they were starting to develop, slide projectors or magic lanterns, these shows would be called Phantasmagorias, and people would show up at this, in a tent to go see a show, and all of a sudden they would see things projected on the walls, and they thought ghosts were really there, and that was the origins of the Phantasmagorias. And in fact, there was a trial. I think it was in France, that sued them because they thought they actually brought back the ghost of a political figure, that kind of a thing. So really strange history of this. Then by the 1800s, when, of course, seances were becoming very popular, these two individuals, Byron and Shelley, and Percy's soon-to-be wife, Mary, and Claire Claremont and John Polidori all vacationed in Switzerland at a place called Diadotti. And the legend that everybody knows is, of course, they were telling each other ghost stories. And somewhere in there, this challenge that they should each write a ghost story happened. Well, what they don't tell you is the name of the book they were reading from was Phantasmagorias. And so the name goes back to honor them. Yeah, Phantasmagoriana, actually, and it was a German book they were reading in French, or a French book they were reading in German. I forget which it was, the original. So the name has a rich history, and Lewis Carroll has a poem called Phantasmagoria, which is a comic poem about a ghost. So it's all these meanings that we went, that's the name. We are a ghost show. We need to use that name. So it's got that kind of pedigree behind it, or a video game, whichever you choose.
It's definitely a very unique name. Like when you hear the name Phantasmagoria, it's not something that's easily forgettable in name alone, let alone the performances, which are amazing, and you guys always look fantastic. Like, I'm way underdressed for this. I should have gone and put on a dress or something. I feel like I didn't come prepared, because you two always look impeccable. So brava for the
They're wearing
choice.
polka dot pajama pants. No, I'm kidding. No.
That's the secret.
No. But we could be. Yes.
Business on top, party in the bottom.
You got it.
Now, you mentioned that your first show you had about 30 members. How many members do you have now in your troupe?
About 70. Yeah, all
Wow.
total.
Central Florida,
Yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah,
Yes.
Florida, we have about 40 to 45, and then we
Okay.
have others spread around who come back to do shows, or we have members up in Georgia. We also have a troupe in St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
that we just got back from. We were performing in St. Louis for Fan Expo, which is
Oh,
um,
nice.
the MegaCon small,
Yes.
is what it is.
It's like a baby MegaCon out there.
Yeah, same people, same producers that
Oh,
own it.
okay.
And so, they can't, we were talking about MegaCon here, and they said, how about MegaCon in St. Louis? And we're like, sure. So we went there.
Alright.
So we have all these people spread out. So between performers, crew, designers, and administration staff, meaning choreographer and stage combat director and puppet director and things like that, well, I would say it's about 70.
Wow, that's impressive. That's a lot of that's a lot of cats to herd, so to speak. Because
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Oh, we know.
yes,
We know.
some harder than others.
Yes.
yes, and sometimes it's like hurting them with chainsaws, and it yes.
I'll tell them you said that. Yes.
Now, I know we had discussed this briefly before we actually went on air, but each member of your troupe has their own stage name, and everyone is unique, which of course I love. But how does everyone come up with that stage name? Is there a method to that madness, or are they just like, well, this sounds cool, this is what I'm gonna go with?
There is a method to that madness. So, other than a few characters that I needed, like essential characters over the years, that for a storyline, I needed to create a character like Isabella, who is our ringmaster. We have this wonderful performer as Isabella right now, but she's also the fourth Isabella we've had because it's an important character that has carried over. So, other than a few characters like that, everyone develops their own character.
Okay.
So the way we do that is we tell them not to pick a name at first, like figure out who you are in the troupe
Okay.
first. We tell them to go back to their heritage, their family, their family's history, their country of origin, their temperament, their emotional quality, and we tell them to look from that and start developing names. And so when they're ready, which is about maybe a month in after they've joined the troupe, they start coming to me with these ideas for names. So, for example, a woman who I have worked with forever on other shows joined the troupe about 3 years ago. And she found this Greek name, Amalthea, which is this very nurturing, lovely, beautiful name. And it really does fit who she is as a person.
Nice.
And because of that, that's what her purpose in the troupe is now. If you're like, who's the nurturing mother of the troupe? Amalthea, you know. Or someone like Bosch, who is more of the evil side. He's not a good person. The person is playing him, but the
The
character
character
is.
is not.
So he went to like the paintings of Harmonious Bosch and looked at those and said, "This is who I want to be," and we're like, done. So we let each person kind of develop that, whether it is a Kyria, which was an Islamic family name, or things like that, or Callum, which is actually kind of just a twisting of the person's real name, but keeping the Scottish kind of European feel to it. We ask everybody to come up with their own names, and that's where that comes from, and that's what we honor. And then the names become just like clowns have to find their own clown.
Yes.
Their clown.
Who is your character?
Yes. Yeah, and it's the same thing. And then we discover years later, because most of the members of the troupe have been with us like for at least 4 years, most of them,
Oh, wow.
others go back 13 years. You discover that they are the character. There's this meshing that has occurred, and you kind of don't know where the character ends and the person begins. It's really interesting. Yeah.
I was just gonna say it also evolves. The characters evolve and change depending on how they grow, both tying into what Byron was saying between you as a person and you as the character. So it's for me, I've been with the troupe since Byron said the very first
Day one.
year,
Yeah.
and Simmarine is not the same character person that she was the first, I mean, for the first 2 years, we didn't have names.
No.
It was only until about year 3 that we started going, well, I guess we're around for a while. We should start creating personalities.
Yeah.
And again, Cimarine has greatly evolved and grown over the years. It's been fascinating watching her grow as her counterpart in the real world grows.
Well, it's almost like I guess like a Jekyll and Hyde, right? So like you have someone who's very sweet and very loving, and then their character is like just this evil, heart-wrenching person, but they're the same. So it's like that
Yes.
Jekyll and Hyde scenario for some, I would imagine.
And there are crossovers, though. If you think about it, Jekyll, whatever Hyde is, came out of Jekyll.
Yes.
And whatever Jekyll is still present in Hyde. And that's, I am Byron, but I'm also the other person.
Yes.
She is Cimarine, but she's also the other person. And it's I think at the beginning, probably there's more of a distance.
Yes.
And then as we grow in the characters, they become one. And sometimes you forget, I go on the Book of Face and I want to send a message to one of our troop members, and they know this and they laugh at me, and I get all pissed off because I'm like, well, what the hell did I do to you? You defriended me. Why can't I find you? Oh, I'm looking for your other name. You forget. Because I do, you forget that thing. One of my students once asked me a question which floored me. It's actually still a question which I'm boggled by. They came to see a Phantasmagoria. It was their first Phantasmagoria. And they came to me afterwards and said, I loved it, but I'm confused. And I said, oh, well, what? Tell me. Are you playing the Phantasmagoria troupe? Or are you actually the Phantasmagoria troupe, those people? And I went, whoa, existential, question here. And to this day, I don't have an answer for that. It blew my mind for about a month just thinking about that. What are we? We're not actors anymore. We are those people. So it's So it's vital that I do not. I could create a character for people and write it, but that's not organic. It doesn't come out of them.
It becomes more personal when it's from them and it's their own creation versus playing a creation, because there's more passion there because they become more dedicated to that character and being able to develop that and to make it grow. So I think that's fantastic that's how you work with them, for them to come up with their own names and their own separate, stage personalities, if you will.
And some people think that we this is not disparaging this because it's wonderful, but some people think that we sit there and doing D&D stuff, figuring out who everybody is and this. No, some of us have no idea what each other's backstories are. I prefer that. I prefer there to be secrets. I prefer there to be interactions. And then myself as a writer, once I see, when I see that Bosch is treating this character badly, I'm like, fabulous. I'm going to write that into the show now.
Right.
And that's the interaction they're going to have, or when Rowan, who was our previous ringmaster, was going to step down, the person playing Rowan had a family and everything, and wanted to take a break from everything.
Yeah.
And we decided who the next ringmaster was going to be, Rowan and I together. And we said, let's not tell anybody. Let's do it live on stage at the end of a performance.
Love that.
So we did that, but afterwards, everybody in the troupe was furious, not because of the actor playing the role, but because of the character. They all came to me and went, how can you trust this character to lead us? She's dangerous. And I said, exactly. That's why I chose her, because she's dangerous, because it added conflict, into the troupe. And it was wonderful to do that. So they react to each other as the characters as well, which is just incredible.
And that becomes much more organic as well too. So I think that's wonderful, because you can always kind of tell when someone is on, right? Versus when they're being genuine, and when you let them kind of create their own and things happen organic, then it becomes genuine, and you lose sight of well, they're acting, but are they? So that's where that person's question came into, are you this troupe or are you them? It's a great way to kind of mesh those together. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, and I don't know if I'll ever have the final answer to it. I hope I don't. I hope, we just keep exploring it and see what that is.
I'm going to go with both.
Yes,
Both.
I like that. Good answer. That's my default.
Exactly. Now, if you were to pitch someone on your troupe and you were to chat, what would you say sets your troupe apart from other troupes that may do something similar or have similar acts, whether it's belly dancing or sword swallowing or anything like that? What's one of the things that someone would look at that performance and be like, that's a Phantasmagoria, without even seeing the name?
Well, it's a little bit of the elegance, a little bit of the bonding that we do as a troupe. I don't want to the branding. I don't want to use that word, but the branding. Right. We all fit this. Sometimes an event person will contact me and go, "Oh my God, you have belly dancers. That's wonderful. We'd like to hire you." And I go, "Absolutely." And here's the picture of our belly dancers. And they go, "Yeah, but we want them to dress like a pirate." And I go, "No, please hire somebody who dresses like a pirate and does belly dancing
That's
instead."
not how we work.
That's not who we are. So I think that's that commitment to the story, commitment to the narrative of Phantasmagoria sets us apart. I also, the idea of us as warm, even though we're like supernatural and creepy and tell ghost stories, the fact that we are personally affected by those stories as we tell them and after we tell them as well, I think that's something that does set us apart. There's a link to those stories,
Yeah.
I think the fact that we don't outwardly state all these, well, this is Byron, he is this and this and this and this.
Right.
We don't do that. We let people watch the shows and find it for themselves. So we leave a little bit of mystery there. It's all there, but they have to find it themselves. I think that sets us apart. I think also just the fusion. The fact that you can come to a Phantasmagoria show, and depending where it is or what it is, you can see 3 people telling a story on a riverboat in St. Louis who are approaching it with the same style and elegance that somebody is standing on stage at the Dr. Phillips Center with 20 other people doing the same story. So I think it's that. We all train together. We have workshops. We're having one this weekend where we're getting together and doing, an acting workshop with all of our members. And we have movement workshops and vocal workshops because we like to train everybody into what we do. We don't let you hit the main stage right away. You have to work through other things. Recently, we had a wonderful addition to the troupe, the young lady I mentioned earlier who we'll get to later about the house, the things she had seen. She joined us as kind of like an understudy first.
Okay.
And then a chorus member, and then was doing so well, we're like, no, we need to put you on stage. So look for the holes, and that's where you're going to fit in on stage during this show. And she did, and then she graduated to a storyteller in one of our mini shows.
Oh, nice.
And now she's graduating to the main stage full, so it's that learning process. So I guess that's a difference. We put the people through a learning process. Right. You don't just hit the stage and do your thing.
It's like any job where you're like, okay, you're going to start here, and then as your confidence grows and as you grow, then we'll move you up. Like you said, it's not like just like, here's the main stage, have at it, because that's not, I like that you guys operate that way, that you take that time and you train folks who maybe they're strong in some areas but not so much in the others, and you get them to that comfortable point where they can stand on their own, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. And we do make people, so what you just said about that, we make people cross over. So the dancers must act. The dancers do puppetry. The actors must dance. The actors must, so we cross over all of these things. And no, we're not all good at it. I am a terrible dancer. I'm terrible, but I hold my own on stage, making believe I'm dancing, Meanwhile, a dancer might not be the best actor, but do their best to do this, and they're brilliant on stage because of their effort. And that is definitely something, that crossover, that I think also lends to our brand, uniqueness,
Absolutely.
There's lots of people who can do what we do, but they do it in their way. Right. You could tell an Edgar Allan Poe story, and a million people could do that. Yeah. Vincent Price does it in his way. We do it in our way, and a musical does it in their way. It's just a different approach.
Nice. Now, when someone comes to see a show, and I'm sure they vary in length, but typically, how long do your performances last? Are they like an hour, 20 minutes? I'm assuming they vary in length depending on the event that you're doing.
Yeah, they do. So if you were coming to like one of our mini shows,
Hmm.
and when I say that, we like the hauntedly romantic tales, the Valentine's Day tour we just did. That was a mini show.
Okay.
We had 7, 8 actors in it. It was about an hour long.
Okay.
That kind of a thing, with no intermission. We don't like intermissions. Some venues make us do intermissions, and that's fine. That's what your venue needs. So we put one in, but we like to go straight through, so the audience takes that journey with us. A show like our main stage shows, 90 minutes.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, in those last weeks, I'm just cutting and slashing and cutting because I'm like, no, we want to catch them. We want to hold them. We don't want to hold them too long. We want them to experience this with us, and then we want to set them free, So 90 minutes would be one of our main stage shows, and that's like for the Halloween shows or for our Christmas shows. Our Christmas shows tend to be actually a little shorter than that, maybe more 80 minutes.
Okay.
So it's a mix of a modern day audience who is more used, although Marvel is screwing that up now with their 12-hour movies,
You're not wrong.
But it's that television audience. It is the movie audience, but it's also the idea of hold them tight and then let them go. Because if you hold them too tight too long, they want to get out of there, and you don't want that. You want them there with us. So that's kind of what we do. Events, that depends on the event. Renegades were there for 3-hour chunks, but it's not a performance. It's just like immersive environment stuff.
Right.
The shows on the trains, which you had referenced, those are running about 2 25-minute acts, basically.
Okay.
And the same thing with the shows on the riverboats. They were about that same thing.
Okay. Well, that actually leads into my next question I was going to ask you guys is you've performed at various venues throughout the years, like you said, from boats, you performed on a train, stages, con floors. Do you have a favorite venue that you enjoy performing at or a preference?
Well, we have our homes. So, the Dr. Phillips Center is our home, and we love performing there. We went from the Shakespeare Theater, which was a wonderful, wonderful venue,
Yes.
to the Dr. Phillips Center, who from they were talking to us for years about coming there and performing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we worked with Opera Orlando, because we have all these different collaborations we do. So we did 2 operas with Opera Orlando in the Dr. Phillips Center, and we fell in love with the space. And I remember before we left the building, like the tech people were like, "You're supposed to be here. You should be in our building." So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to explore this. And it turned into a wonderful, wonderful thing. So that's a home. The Athens Theater in DeLand, that's a home.
Yes.
The Wayne Dench Theater in Sanford, that's a home. The Tampa Theater, this is a more recent home, maybe about 4 years. Oh, right?
That theater is
That building? Oh.
the history of that building, the architecture of that building, it's very much lived in.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Very much so.
Yes. And that's a new home now. I think we're going into this will be our 4th or 5th year with them. I forget.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
we're doing custom shows with them now too. We go for a meeting there next week to discuss our new custom show that we do the day before we do our main stage show.
Okay.
Kind of wonderful. Yeah, we do kind of a walk-through thing called Spirit Fest, where all the spirits are celebrated, meaning the audience is going through listening to us tell ghost stories. Right. Meanwhile, the audience is enjoying spirits of their own. So by the end, we have a very drunk audience watching us, listening to the stories. I'm trying to think whether the Riley. We miss the Riley Center so much. We actually head there for a site survey this week because the pandemic. Can't do anything.
Yeah.
And they've recently built a large black box theater, and they're like, "No, this is where we want you to perform now." So we go for a because we're back there. So it's all these little homes we have. I can't pick a favorite. Each one offers something different. The Dr. Phillips is a more modern building, but the people are amazing, and the crews are amazing, and the audiences and their support for the artists in the building are incredible. Or you go to the Athens Theater, which is a historical theater, and you feel like you're, in the time of vaudeville performing on the stage.
Yes.
Or you go to the Tampa Theater, which you know, for visuals, that's my favorite because
Yes.
the stage is very tiny. We actually have to abbreviate our performance because the stage is so small.
It is.
But you look behind, and there's this like 40-foot screen projecting our stuff on it, and you just, you're immersed in it. It's amazing. So each one offers, each one is a home in a different way.
Nice. Now, I've got a few people in the chat chiming in about how much they love the train. And how unique those performances were. Is that now, are you guys still doing the train performances, or is that run its course, so to speak?
That ran its course. So the train is, those people with the train are no longer even there.
Okay.
When the pandemic hit, things got very hard, but things were getting hard before the pandemic.
Yes.
Something to do with Mount Dora and the tracks, and they no longer leased the tracks or kept them up or something like that.
Okay.
So they took the trains and moved them out of state. So they're running them up in Georgia now.
Oh, well, okay.
So there you go. But they're also building a theater. One of the members of that came to MegaCon and was with us all 4 days. Hey, Shannon, if you're watching. He was with us all 4 days. And he's like, John, we built the theater. It's almost done. I got to get you guys up there. We're like, done. Shannon, you let us know when you want to, So we're not doing that train yet. We're doing, how do I say this? We're doing 2 riverboats. One that's going to be very close, not in Sanford, but one that's going to be in Florida. That we actually, it's one of the reasons we're going to Tampa. We're killing 2 birds with one Phantasmagoria stone, and we're meeting with a cruise ship at the same time that we're meeting with the Tampa Theater to talk about helping to develop shows for them. So
that's exciting.
Lots of fun stuff in the works. Yeah. That will be a little different than Phantasmagoria. It's I can't talk. I can't say this, but we have the potential for new boats. Let's just say that.
See, that's very cool. I hope things go well. I hope the talk goes well, and then you can share with everyone what is happening when the time is right.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, so for your shows, do you typically try to do different stories at the different locations, or do you kind of carry the stories throughout them, or how do you think? Because I know you do shows in other states as well as Florida, and as you had mentioned, you have different members or troops or folks. Words.
So that's a hard one to answer. So every show is customized.
Okay.
So on the train, we were doing Florida ghost stories and train tragedies. Like Matt Palm said, you would think it would be counterproductive to be sitting on a train listening to about stories about people dying on trains, but it actually works, And then, of course, on the riverboats, we were doing Mississippi River tales and tales of the Missouri River, and ghost tales of Missouri, the Exorcist houses in Missouri, and things like that, the Lemp Mansion stuff. So we definitely customize for the area we're in. Okay. The other thing we do, though, however, is there are stories that we carry over, Right. So, like the first year we did the shows in St. Louis, it's like, Telltale Heart, let's do that. But now we have to completely rewrite it for 5 women. Done! So we rewrite the story for that custom, or Captain Murderer, which is one of our signature pieces. What's fascinating, what I've learned about Captain Murderer is not only does it work as the 20-person Captain Murderer I originally wrote, it's a Charles Dickens story. Okay. But it also works as a 3-person Captain Murderer, which we've done multiple times now. And when the ugly thing called COVID reared its head in St. Louis, I rewrote it as a 2-person Captain Murderer, and it still worked. So you discover different ways of you can't tell it the same way.
Right.
You have to tell it in a brand new way. And so you learn the ways of doing that. So every show is, I'm rewriting, our show this fall is all Poe stories. So while there are some new ones that we've never done before, there are also ones we have done before.
Okay.
And I must have, ADHD or something because I'm rewriting them. It's like, oh, here's, Cask of Amontillado. How do I change it?
So what can I do that's new
to
give something fresh to it?
Absolutely. I was sitting there just a few days ago. We just finished the first draft of the script and got it to the collaborators. I'm sitting there going, why did I keep all of these verses in the Raven? This one doesn't need to be in there, and we're editing it and changing it and fixing it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you saw me going, oh, this is a loaded question. Even when we do the same story, we redo it.
Right.
And rewrite it and reapproach the way we're going to stage it. And the reverse of that is every time we've done a main stage, we have never repeated a story, ever, in 13 years. This is the first time.
Wow.
This is the first time. Because it's all Poe, like I said. We did 3 years of tours out of state that were best of shows.
Oh, okay.
So Wicked Little Tales, Wickeder Little Tales, and Wickedest Tales of All. We did them like 3 years successive and toured them around. So those were best of. Those were stories we had done before.
Okay.
But other than that, no, we want it all to be original.
Now I've got quite a few people in the chat commenting, Victoria and Jack, and about the live Facebook shows that were being done when COVID reared its ugly head and we were all trapped indoors. You entertained everyone on Facebook on Sunday nights.
Mm-hmm.
You did these lovely stories, these lovely shows, and I'm assuming that they're gone due to the fact that things are getting back to normal now, and everyone's going out into the world, and they're kind of back to doing what they did before. And you guys, I'm sure, busy as can be with gigs and all the things happening. So have you thought about doing like a once in a blue moon show on Facebook?
Yes. So we miss it, but it also killed us.
Yes.
We do miss it.
What we have started doing actually is we having discovered that the Living Book of Face worked so well for us, since we stopped for the moment, suspended our weekly Sunday evenings, we've actually started doing on-site Facebook Lives, much more than we did before. So that was kind of a segue into, yes, we still want to do these, but we also can't be in 2 places at once. So here's the middle ground.
Yeah, it's so we were in St. Louis working with the St. Louis troupe. We landed on a Wednesday. We were in the hotel, and the then president took to a press conference to say that everything was going to be shutting down.
Yeah.
And we went, what? And so we called the boats, and the boat said, nah, it's fine, don't worry. So we went to rehearsals, and the producer on the boat was like, this is so weird. People keep canceling. And then by the last day of our rehearsals, the captain of the boat came on and said, we're closing, everybody. And we were like, what? We didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
So we were petrified. We were in a hotel. There was nobody else in the hotel. Cimarine, myself, and the clerk at the front desk. That's it.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
No, we were freaked out by that. We rushed to the airport, not knowing if we were even going to get on a plane. What's going on? We don't have masks. We were like cleaning everything. Nobody knew what to do.
Yeah.
And we got home and immediately said, what do we do about our audiences? This is... So we said, let's try something this Sunday night. Let's just do this. And if it fails, we didn't even know if it could work. What is this Facebook Live thing? And it really worked. And so we said, we'll do it every week until we don't. That was kind of the promise we made. And that's what we did. We've done a few performances that people might have caught or not. We actually did some private performances for people. We sent a private performance to Saint Joan, and we kept correcting ourselves. Oh, sorry, you're no saint. Yes, Joan Collins, because someone asked us to do this one. Her godchild.
Yeah.
We did this wonderful performance for Dame Joan Collins, so we enjoyed that. And then we also just did one recently. So one of our members is a relative of George Perez.
Okay.
And even prior to them joining, we knew George. We met probably about 7-8 years ago at a comic book convention. And we loved him, and he was a great guy. And so we all know that he was very, he was ill for a while. We had done one of our Sunday night episodes for him for his birthday before he was ill. We just did a Sunday night birthday party for George Perez, and with his niece there. And then I was texting him, probably about a month and a half before. I didn't think I was going to hear back, but I just wanted to let him know that Phantasmagoria was thinking of him. And he wrote back saying, "Can't wait to see your performances again. I love the fire." So. Aww. We did a Sunday night performance, so to speak, for George that we put on our Facebook page, where we all got together. The whole troupe was here because we were doing photos for something. So we all were dressed up and we did a whole ladies and gentlemen for George, and we went outside and did the fire for him. Lady Cimarine, our fire dancer, and posted it for him, and I hope he did get to see it. I made sure I texted him and let him know it was up there, but that was the last we heard from George. So I hope we can do those kinds of performances, meaning spot performances. I don't think we're ever going to go back to doing them every week.
I love you all, but no.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I understand.
Yes.
Green adores all of you. But no.
But one of the members in this house is itching to get back on to streaming, and his name is Punch. So at some point in time, we're talking about a Punch and Judy special for Facebook Live.
Okay.
We'll see when that happens. Yeah, he smells really bad. So just getting him into the house and out of the basement is never a pleasant thing. But perhaps Punch will have a holiday special coming up.
You have to take a loofah sponge to him.
Doesn't work. The stuff is like under the skin.
On the plus side, there's no smell-o-vision, so the viewers
don't
have to worry about the stench. I'm sure we can imagine it if we like, but that's something that we would not have to worry about.
I kind of resent that, actually. I'm gonna take like construction paper and rub it on Punch and send it to all of you. That's what I'm gonna do.
That's an extra bonus. It's $5 if you want the stench. You just
scratch and sniff.
Scratch and sniff it. There's some love from a few folks in the chat about Punch, and then someone's asking about Bonesy.
Oh, Bonesy is fine. Bonesy, surprisingly, has never moved. Bonesy is still sitting in his armchair. Yes. Holding his candle. He's right over there behind us. Yes, Bonesy is still doing very well.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, do you guys have any upcoming performances that folks can come see you at?
Oh, yes. Well, right now, we just finished MegaCon.
Yes.
So we went from, St. Louis Fan Expo literally 3 days later into MegaCon Orlando, which went wonderfully. We did 10 shows plus panels and performance booths, so it went really well. Cimarine had to rush out of a performance in the South Concourse and run through these crowds to the North Concourse to perform for their costume contest. It was fascinating.
And I was going to say, and how quickly were you able to make it over there? Because that place was packed.
So they had both the North and South concourses, full floors, open for business for MegaCon this year. We had a 5 o'clock performance of Phantasmagoria Carnival 2. I performed at the very beginning. I grabbed my things. I ran as quickly as I could through the crowds to get to the other side. I started in the one side of the South to the opposite end in the North.
Oh, geez.
Literally got backstage to walk on stage and dance.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I literally made it as the last group of contestants was exiting the floor to usher me in.
Wow.
Yes. And we have a bone to pick with you hobbits, because the hobbits is the reason this happened. You hobbits, we're gonna talk, all right? Because when they developed their whole event, they had to move the costume contest earlier in the day. So I'm coming for you. I have multiple rings. We'll see what happens.
Also to have, because after I ran on stage and performed for the costume contest, I ran back to perform at our booth on the floor.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And I had people as the costume contest wrapped up, and people were leaving to come back to the convention room floor, I actually had people coming up to the booth and going, "Wait a minute, how did you get back? How did you do that?" I'm going,
Magic.
"Magic."
I love it.
So yes, it
But-
was an adventure.
But so we finished MegaCon, and right now we begin our process for the fall.
Yep.
So other than we have a few appearances coming up, and we have our standard ones that we do. Renegades is coming up in the fall, Dia de los Muertos, things like that. So we have all these different performances in October.
Okay.
Halloween, go figure. But we start rehearsing Phantasmagoria 13, Poe Through the Tales Darkly, and that will open at the Dr. Phillips first. I think it's like October 6th, and then do the tour through Tampa and Ocala and DeLand, etc. So that's a moving show, and then we're getting ready for. Remember, I mentioned to you that I get bored easily.
Yeah.
We're doing our Christmas show again. So every year we do Christmas Carol, and this year I'm like, let's do something else. So while we are doing Christmas Carol, what I'm doing is I'm shrinking it down to a one-act Christmas Carol, like 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then we're pairing it, so like a double feature, with the Canterville Ghost, Oscar Wilde's tale. So, two ghost stories that are usually told at Christmas. So we're doing that for Christmas. We're getting ready to write our show for next Valentine's Day. So we're keeping busy. So usually our packed months are October, November, and December is when we're doing, I'd say, 2/3 of our performances for the year, just in those months.
Wow.
And then we're down for 1 week, and then our first event is in the second week of January. So literally, that's how busy we are. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, but it's like, you got to recharge a little bit. So I'm glad that you're at least taking a week to do that. Although I'm sure you probably won't really be recharging. You'll probably be writing and doing other things, but it's a nice thought.
Sleeping. Yes, sleeping. We may be doing that, dead girl. Yes.
Go into hibernation for a week, leave them alone, and let them recharge. That's how it works.
Love it.
Now, if someone's watching you guys and they want to see like where you're going to be next, I'm assuming they could follow you on like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for up-to-date information on where they can come see a live performance.
Absolutely. The we have a website too, phantasmagoriaorlando.com, but that's more of a box office for us.
Okay.
So really what you see on there is like right now it's probably still MegaCon, and then it will switch and become, the Halloween show, and then it switches and becomes the Christmas show.
Okay.
So the Facebook page, Phantasmagoria Orlando, that is the best one to follow, and we post about all the different places there too. Not just, in the beginning we thought, well, we're in Orlando, so why not? But now we're in multiple places. So Phantasmagoria Orlando, Twitter and Instagram at Phantaz Orlando. Yes, see, Cimarine knows. So those are great ways to find out our upcoming shows. Absolutely. Stay tuned with us there, and we always post, like we posted today for Horror Happenings with the Dead Girl.
Thank you. And I'll be sure, of course, to share your updates when you guys have new shows coming up so that folks can come and see you and check out a live performance. If you've not done so, I highly suggest you do that. Just do it. Don't ask questions. Just go and enjoy. And I know we've talked about a couple of things before we came on air, and not to take away from the wonderfulness of Phantasmagoria, but we were talking about your home, and you guys live in a true blue haunted house.
Mm-hmm. We, yes.
Yes.
It's not just us here, right? And that's not, and I'm not being, I'm being Byron, but Byron's talking about the other people who live here. So yes, we purchased a home a number of years ago in Sanford, Florida. That is a historical home. And when we went to go sign, you sign it and you pass out because now you own a home. We asked the previous owner, so is there anything you want to tell us about the house? And they were like, I told you everything. What are you talking about? It's been inspected. Everything's fine. And I'm like, no, I mean, is there anything you want to tell us about the house? And they went, oh. Yeah. Now, Rock, his name was Rock, didn't necessarily believe the stories himself, although he had experienced a number of things.
Okay.
but he talked about the lady on the stairs. That is what she is called. And it seems that a former owner of the house back from the 50s had visited him in his tenure of owning this home and wanted to see the house. And he's like, of course, come in.
Yeah.
And one of the first things she said to him was, have you seen the lady on the stairs? And so for him, his experiences were things like his dogs would go running through the house and stop at the base of the stairs looking up as if there was somebody was coming down the stairs. Things would go missing. You were mentioning some of your own stories, similar stories. Something would go missing from down here and he would find it upstairs in the back of a shelf or something, So little things like that happen. So we were happy with this. We're like, oh, cool, we have a visitor.
We have a roommate.
Right. So then, when we took ownership of the house, we didn't live here for the first, 6 months?
At least.
So, we were doing work on it. We had contractors here, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we would come in and check on the house. So we came on a New Year's Eve to check on the house.
Okay.
And we did the walk, and we're just about to leave, and we amused ourselves because we both stopped at the end of the hall and kind of looked upstairs and said, Happy New Year's to the house at the same time without planning it. And so we're laughing, and all of a sudden music starts playing upstairs. And we just stopped dead and we're listening to the music.
Now, mind
Yes.
you, there is nothing in the house. It is completely empty. We don't even have the alarm system installed yet.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we're listening, and Cimarine goes, maybe it's a car passing by. And I'm like, it's like 1920s party music. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
it's fantastic. Could you imagine? That would be my friend driving down the road.
Yeah. So I went upstairs and I'm looking all over and there's nothing. And the music stops. It was probably on for only about 30 seconds maybe, but that was a pretty good duration.
Yeah.
The next thing that happened was when the contractors were working on the house, I came over one morning, early in the morning, and the door to the kitchen was wide open. We have a very wide door. And it was wide open, and we're outside talking, and I see the house, and his back is to the house. And I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden he sees me just stop and stare. And he turns around, and he sees that the door has gone from completely closed to now it's slowly moving and closing. And he looks back at me, the contractor, and he goes, oh yeah, dude, every day. He goes, oh my God, there's something in your house. And I was like, okay. My daughter was here one day cleaning for us, and she called me, not in a panic, but in a concern, going, Dad, do you know there's somebody on the stairs? And I'm like, oh, I should tell you the story.
By the way, let me fill you in on that.
No, it escalates from there. We went through a period of time when we were moving in where there was something happening every day.
Wow.
Whether it was noises or seeing the person, who we eventually found out who it was, the person walking by a doorway, or somebody telling me that, my daughter especially saying, I saw her in the window upstairs. My alarm's going off. Hold on. Yes. My daughter would see her upstairs in the window. Things like that were occurring. And we had interactions with her, and that's what was unique. I've definitely heard things in the past, and I've seen things in the past.
Right.
But we had literal interactions with her.
Wow.
The first one truly frightened me, but not in a bad way, necessarily. We were sleeping in the house, and every night I would hear a crack, like a sharp crack, and I would wake up. I was asleep when it was happening. And I would tell myself, you did not hear anything. Or I would tell myself, it's the attic. You have this big attic, because we have a large attic and a basement. And so something's happening up there.
Wait, you have a basement in Florida?
One of 5 in Seminole County. We would
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we have a basement. It's creepy. It's like the catacombs. It's all brick. And you can crawl through crawl spaces and go into the next room. And into the next room. It's very creepy. So one night I woke up, like in the middle of the night, and I'm awake. And the door to the bedroom is half open. And all of a sudden I hear the crack. Bam! But it's coming from the bedroom door. And so I jumped up, and I'm terrified, and I'm like truly scared at this moment.
Right.
And I start yelling at it. Don't do that. Don't scare us. Stop.
Yeah.
And the door closes.
Like she was like, okay then.
Yeah. And actually, oh, I love that you did that because Dead Girl, that's actually how I saw her. The first time I saw her, she was walking past a doorway, and what I thought I saw, what I, you know, visualized was her walking into the doorway, seeing us, and walking back out. Like she didn't want to interrupt us.
Ah,
So, yeah, so we actually had a physical interaction with her, more than one.
wow.
Um, where she did something. She opened a door once behind me because I was testing her. Don't test a ghost.
No.
Yeah. We went through this period of time where she was opening all the doors in the house. So we went upstairs and we talked to her and said, "Hey, we love you here." Right? That was the day we did that. Yeah,
Yes.
we love you here. Don't scare us. Make us know you're here, but do it in a way where you don't scare us and blah blah blah. And then we closed all the doors to all the rooms upstairs. And I'm standing at the top of the stairs looking at the door she keeps opening, which is the guest room door, which is where she was laid out for her wake.
Oh,
Why
wow.
upstairs, I don't know. So we're looking at the door, and I'm going, "Open the door." We're waiting. "No, I'm serious. I'm not mad. Please open the door. Go ahead. I want you to know you can do it."
Right.
Nothing. We wait about 2 minutes, was it? And I'm like, "Okay." And we start stepping down the stairs, and she opens up the door right behind me. And I'm like, "Oh, you are good. You have this wonderful sense of humor." So her name is Minerva, is actually her birth name.
I love that name.
It's a beautiful name, but she went by Murdy,
Okay.
which is interesting. So Murdy is, I guess, a nickname that she had. She was already married. A woman of strength. She was married and she divorced her husband in the
Okay.
1920s, the early 1920s, because she found out he was a bigamist. He had two families. So she
Oh.
left with her son, Fred. She met George DeCotts, who built our home. So George was a famous lawyer at the time. He was uh, a politician, a lawyer, etc. And he was just coming into fame.
Okay.
The Rosewood Massacre. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that. It was
I'm not very.
a racial massacre that was done where white citizens killed multiple black citizens in a place called Rosewood. George was the lawyer trying to prosecute the people who killed them,
Okay.
which was a first. Like a lawyer prosecuting white people for killing members of the black community was a
Yeah.
first. So George was actually, in a way, like the civil rights pioneer, like helping,
Oh, wow.
there was a wrong here. So they met in a boarding house and married and moved here. She died, nothing in the hospital. She did not die in the house. She died in the hospital.
Okay.
He brought her back here, laid her upstairs in Florida for a week till the family convinced him that he had to let her go. He loved,
Oh,
he loved her.
I can't imagine the smell
Yeah.
after a week. I mean,
Sorry.
I smell after an hour, but after a week.
Yeah, no. So they let her go. He let her go. She was buried. He died a few years later in a boating accident that honestly people are not sure was an accident.
Oh, okay.
There was lots of lurid stories about it. Was it a murder or not? The way we found all this out was a woman who lived here before we moved in worked at the History Museum. She actually contacted us and asked, "Are we going to have anybody stay in the carriage house?" And we said, "Maybe one day. We don't know why." And she said, "Well, can I stay there?" Because she kept the files on this house for the History Museum. And now,
Oh, wow.
wonderful lady, Brigitte, she actually runs the History Museum. She went from just an employee to being in charge of the entire museum. She's a great lady. So she would tell us all the stories. And my former mother-in-law was also one of the historians, and we always kept in touch. She
Yeah.
told me all about the house. She actually came and toured me through the house and said, "See this? This is the button where Murdy used to do this," because for the time period, she had like automation in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a button in the dining room. So when she had elegant dinners, she could just tap the button and the staff would come in. Things
Oh,
like that.
wow.
It was kind of really progressive. And it was about 10 years later that she started appearing to the families in the house. The family that lives right across from us is still her family. It's Minerva's family. It was her sister. And so our neighbors, I think, is the grandniece or great grandniece. I don't know. But they call her Aunt Murdy. And they've seen her. They tell us the stories. We went on a trip to Maryland. Was it when we were in Maryland to do a show?
Yes.
I don't remember. And she waited about a week and then contacted us and said, "Listen, we want to tell you something. We don't want to freak you out, but when you were out of town, she was in the back doorway every night looking out to see if your cars were coming back." And we're like,
Wow, she missed you.
yes. And recently, so we have Elizabeth, who is one of our Phantasmagoria members, has been taking care of the house a little bit for us.
Okay.
When we've been out of town for St. Louis or for the Kennedy Space Center stuff we were doing and things like that.
Yeah.
And she's witnessed it a few times, which is really interesting. And she has seen her in the windows upstairs too. And because Elizabeth is new, you know, Murdy rarely does anything to the two of us because we're, I guess, family now, I hope.
Yes. I would think that after being there for as long as you had, that it sounds like she's accepted you into her family.
Yep. So I think, you know, she was just curious. Well, who is this new person? So she did a couple of things to Elizabeth when Elizabeth was here. And we're like, we loved it. I'm not sure Elizabeth.
But I will say it stopped after I let her know you have to say hello to Miss Murdy.
Yeah.
The moment that she started saying hello to Miss Murdy, when she walked into the door, things quieted down.
Yeah, we do that.
Wow.
You know, hey, Murdy, we're taking off, Murdy. We'll be back later, Murdy. Hello, Murdy, we're back. We do it all the time. And we visit. So she's buried, what, 3 miles from here?
Not even.
Not even 3 miles from here.
Oh, wow.
We visit her every Christmas or New Year's. We alternate.
Yeah.
And we take care of the plot a little bit. She's buried there with her son Fred and George and George's first wife. And so we go and just let her know that we care about her.
Wow, that's definitely a very unique living situation.
Yes.
And it sounds like you guys have married into a lovely cohabitating thing with Minerva. I think that's awesome. Have you guys thought about doing any type of seance or anything at the house? Or are you just like good with leaving it alone?
So we've had people who've wanted to come by and see, a number of people, and try stuff. And we told them, you can come by, but you can't do anything.
Yes.
Right.
So, like, if you feel Minerva, fabulous.
Right.
But we don't want you doing a seance. We don't want you doing a Ouija board. We don't want you trying to contact, because would you do that to somebody's roommate?
Exactly.
No.
The way you look at it is it's as if somebody comes into your home with you there and starts going, "Hello, dead girl.
Yeah.
Will you speak to us, dead
Yeah.
girl?" And we're going,
Yeah.
"But
Yeah.
no."
So we didn't want that. But everyone who's come in, like the very first person, and if they're watching, and I know they watch you too, if they're watching, they'll know I'm talking about them.
Wow.
They want to come and sense. And I'm like, well, come on over. And we didn't even have a kitchen floor at the time because we were renovating. So they were walking across the beams.
Oh, wow.
And they walked in and walked across and just stopped and went, this is good. This is good. You know, just sensing Murdy.
Mhm.
And that made us very happy. So our thing always is, come on in, sense her. If you see her, you can talk to her, you know, or if she's there, you can say something, but don't
Provoke or try to like make her do the thing so that you can go, I had an experience. Because
exactly.
to your point, I wouldn't want someone coming into my house going, hey, no.
Exactly. I mean, she knows when to appear. We were standing right over here, 5 feet away, having a conversation about her with a number of performers who were doing a show for us years ago. And one of them was a doubter.
Vehemently.
Those are my favorites.
Yes. And as we're talking, all of a sudden, I saw the look before I heard the noise. Two of the girls standing up against the door were looking up the stairs, and all of a sudden I heard the doorknob go and the door open. And the person who was at the time not really sure this was real just walked up and down the hall going, no, 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 no. So Murdy knows when to appear. We can assure you. Yes.
I have Johnny Bronto's watching with Haunt Scene, and he says, yes, you can feel it as soon as you walk in the house. You can feel her.
Love you.
Love you, Johnny.
So that's my husband. Actually, that's not. So my husband suggested doing like a celebration of life for her, just to like invite her to dance or listen to some music or relax. I love that idea.
That doesn't bother me at all. We have a photo of her, so we know what she looks like. So we can actually, the family gave it to us.
Oh,
I was
nice.
in 1927 at a picnic. Very handsome woman, wearing a hat, very stately. So what you just said, somebody actually did for us once.
Really?
So we have a dear friend who I could, yes. So Michael Winslow used to live with us, actually, not in this house, in our last house.
Okay.
So Michael Winslow, the man of 10,000 voices, wonderful human being, kind human being, was our roommate for about 6 months. And has performed with us and done sometimes in the voiceovers. If you hear a monster voice, it's actually Michael.
Oh, okay.
And so he would come here often, and the first thing he wanted to do was play music for Murdy, because Michael has an extensive like '78 collection and all this wonderful stuff, and so he wanted to play music for her, which we did do, and he just let it be a time for Murdy. I love that idea. Tell your husband, bravo, I agree.
He's watching. He's chiming in there. So I love that idea. I think that's wonderful, and I love that your friend was like, I'm going to play some music for her.
Right. And that's the kind. So a lot of people don't know that. I'm gonna like brag about Michael Winslow for a second.
Brag.
Everybody knows the fact that he can make some fun noises, and he's a funny comedian, and Police Academy, all that stuff. His heart is bigger than this house.
Aww.
The man takes care of people and loves people, and is one of the gentlest souls I've met.
That's fantastic.
Michael, if you're watching, and if not, I'll send you the video.
Watch it later then, but understand that you are a loved man.
Yeah, I mean, he came over for Christmas bringing presents. Just he didn't need to. He was bringing presents for his family because we were sending them to his family up in Georgia. We're friends with his daughter as well.
Oh, nice.
He brought me actually 2 78s.
Yes.
He brought us two antique records.
Oh,
just
wow.
that's his thing. Yeah, that's so he wanted to take care of Murdy just in the same way that your husband said. So bravo.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Now I've got a couple of more questions, and then I know we're kind of running a little long, but I love our chat. You guys are amazing, so thank you so much for chatting. But I have 2 questions, and I love to ask these of people because it also kind of helps me get to know you a little bit, and I don't know how to explain it. It helps me kind of get to know folks. So I always ask people these questions, and they look at me like I'm nuts, but it's fine. So being the fans of the spooky that you folks are, do you have a favorite horror movie that you enjoy watching?
Let you go first, darling.
I don't actually.
No.
So when I get asked the question, what is your favorite this or what is your favorite that, I really don't have one. Because I just like reading new books or watching new horror movies or hearing new stories. I can't pick a favorite. I don't necessarily want to pick a favorite. So unfortunately, my boring answer is no, I don't.
That's okay.
I really do not think I could pick a favorite. There are just too many of them that I just enjoy going back to.
Mine is a little more nuanced than that. No, that's perfect. I agree with you that you don't.
No.
We've talked about this before. So I love the old Hammer horror films.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I started watching them again that I realized so much of Phantasmagoria came from the Hammer horror films in terms of the aesthetic. Never realized that until I was looking at it again going, Peter Cushing, of course. But when it comes to a favorite horror movie, Johnny Bronto's never going to talk to me again. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. It was what formed me. It's what I saw when I was 5 years old because I started horror movies very young.
So did I.
Yeah, there you go. And for my entire life, I was telling Johnny Bronto about how I got in trouble in grade school because I had imaginary friends, but the imaginary friends were Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman. Seriously, they called my parents in. They called my parents. But Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That would be if I had to pick one to watch.
Okay. So to echo Haunt Scene sentiment down there in the comments, that is a solid pick. It is definitely that's a wonderful pick. I love the old horror movies. There's something about them that's, I don't know. They're done differently. They're not so in your face today. It's a little more subtle. The effects were different back then, and I mean, granted, deadly to a degree on some of them, but still, for what they could do back then, was just amazing. So I love all the older films. Those are fantastic. Now, my second question that I ask everybody is just as important as that one, which is going to delve into what is your favorite Halloween candy?
Well, okay, so little backstory.
Okay.
Uh-oh, she's gonna do it. Oh.
Halloween was evil when I was growing up.
Okay.
A little bit of my other self's background. So never got to go trick-or-treating, never got to dress up, never got
Mom,
to...
if you're watching, she's
I love
apologizing. Yes.
I love you now. And that's an interesting thing. So Phantasmagoria has kind of turned my parents around on the whole Halloween thing, which is marvelous. So as far as a favorite, it's not a candy per se, but I've always been partial to caramel apples. So caramel apples, I absolutely love. So it's, I guess you would call it a fall treat.
Yes.
And it's, I guess the caramel is the candy.
It counts. I'm going to count it. I will count it for sure.
I could live off of caramel apples. I love them, especially if there's a little fudge coating on the outside with crushed peanuts. Oof, deliciousness. So that would be mine. That one I can choose a favorite.
Okay. That's a good favorite.
For me, I have a tragic upbringing as well. My mother loved Halloween. My father loved Halloween. My grandparents loved Halloween, but I was never allowed to trick or treat.
Really?
Because you see, in another lifetime, and Byron will reveal this to you, I grew up in Dyker Heights, Brooklyn. And so my mother never thought that was safe. So I would have to eat candy at home or at my grandparents' house. Okay. So the $100,000 bar, those old candies, is what my grandmother always had. So to me, that's Halloween candy. So yes, the $100,000 bar would be my favorite candy.
I love those. Those are so good. See, I'm a little, so my candy is a little different, and it is a hit or miss. You either love it or you hate it, and it is candy corn.
Oh, I love candy corn. Yes.
Simmering's face is like, no. See, it's a love it or you hate it.
Do you like circus peanuts?
I never had circus peanuts.
Circus peanuts probably taste a little more candle waxy than candy corn, I would say. They're still good. They're like a fluffy candy corn in a way.
Fluffy marshmallow non-peanut thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I love it. I'm so, okay, so one of you at least is a candy corn fan, so now I don't feel so alone. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me this evening and for letting us get to know you and to get to know a little bit about your troupe and what you guys do. So thank you for that. And again, folks, if you're not doing so, follow Phantasmagoria on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the places. Keep following up as well. We'll also share updates as we get them as far as the new shows that are coming out and when you guys are going to be performing and where and all of that fun information. So thank you guys so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Dead Girl. This was fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we will see you guys next time. All right, gang, so real quick, just to let you guys know, next week, we have the ladies of Spooky Empire. We have Gina Mangelli and Kim Wilson on. Now, Gina is the woman behind the scenes. She does pretty much everything. Kim does a lot of the vendor stuff. She also does a lot of other things with the show. So make sure that you tune in. We're going to be chatting. We're going to be live. If you have questions, we'll get some answers. So thank you guys for watching. And until next time, keep it spooky. Bye.